So thank you all for coming tonight. It's a small group, but a great group, and we will continue on with this next chapter, 15, in the Samadhirajasutra, and perhaps some other folks will join us in the process. And for those who are joining us on YouTube, thank you very much for joining us here. So we'll begin by doing short opening prayers, the refuge prayer, the short refuge prayer, and the four vast immeasurable measurables. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. Sangye chodang soki chodam la, zhangzhu badu dagni kapsu chi, dagi jinso ki pe sonam gi, drola penshir sangye chupa sho. May all mothers sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mothers sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Manam kadam yam pesem chentam she dewadang dewe grudang dembar jorchi. Dug now dang dunal gigu dang drawar jorchi. Dug now me pe dewadang midra war jorchi. Ne ring jag dang ni dang dra wei tang nam la ne pa chi. Very good, thank you. Okay, so before we get started, does anybody have any comments or questions about anything that we've done thus far, or about anything that you'd like to see happen in the future? Okay. So tonight we're on chapter 15. It's a very short chapter, the elucidation of the Buddha's smile. It's short, but it's very profound. So I think there'll be some interesting discussion with this. So we should begin by reading the text as we've been doing. So if Eileen, would you begin? If you would begin by reading the first page, chapter 15, through the end of 15.7. And then Bernie, would you please read 15.8 through, well, read that through the end. So it's just a couple of verses on the next page. So if we can do that, and then we can have a discussion about this. So Eileen, when you're ready, please begin.
Chapter 15. The elucidation of the Buddha's smile. At that time, the Bhagavan spoke these appropriate verses to Bodhisattva Maitreya. This youth, Kandabrava, has praised the Buddha with unequal joy. He described the unique superior qualities of the Buddhas. All the time he is reciting their praises. In this very city of Rajagra in the past, he has seen 10,000 million Buddhas. In the presence of all these jinas, he asked about this supreme samadhi of peace. He has always been my son, practicing this supreme bodhisattva conduct. He has always had the confidence of speech, and always he has been practicing celibacy. In the very fearful future times, you, Ajita, will be my witness, always remaining in the state of celibacy. He will make this samadhi widespread. Those who seek entry into this sublime samadhi through that path will attain enlightenment. He will be adopted by many millions of Buddhas, and he will make supreme offerings to those guys. I prophesy that remaining in wisdom, Kandabrava's conduct will be exceptional. In the future times, there will be no obstacle to this celibacy or to this life.
He will know millions of Buddhas as clearly as 5 Mirabalan plums in the palm of the hand. And he will make offerings in the future to even more, as numerous as sand grains in the Ganges. 800 million devas and nagas and 700 million yakshas in future times will be zealous and make offerings to the Supreme among humans. He will make offerings to the Supreme Human and will practice the unsurpassable wisdom. In the future time, he will become a Lord of the world, a Jina by the name of Vimalaprabha. The young man was overjoyed when hearing this prophecy about himself. Chandraprabha floated up to the height of 7 palm trees, and remaining in the sky, he made this declaration. O Jina, you have the supreme Dharma. You have the power of a Lord of liberating wisdom. You remain in the certainty of supreme wisdom and cannot be defeated by adversaries. You have abandoned attachment and reached liberation. You have no attachment to existence, which is beyond, which is devoid of things. You have no conceptualization whatsoever. You have the wisdom of non-attachment toward the 3 existences. You are unstained by any conceptualization. You are free of conceptualized view. You have meditated perfectly on the path that has no location, and you cannot be defeated or hindered by anyone. You have no residence in the 3 realms. You are free from the floods and the knots. You have cut through the bondage of the creepers of craving. You are free of existence and are devoid of existence. You know the non-existence that is the nature of parinirvana. You make understood the words that cannot be described. Just as the lion destroys the jackal, you defeat the unwise Tirtikas. I have obtained today the highest treasure, the treasure of the Dharma taught by the Sugata. I am free from falling into any of the lower existences. I will never have doubts that you are my guide. He placed upon my head his hand, which was shining beautiful, the color of gold. He gave me the consecration to be a supreme leader of humans, with the world and its devas as witnesses. Conclusion of the 5th chapter, the elucidation of the Buddha's smile.
Very good. Thank you very much, Brother Bernie. So if you all have the other booklet, that The King of Samadhi, which was the excerpts that we had from the 84,000 translation, but also the excerpts from Trangu Rinpoche's book, The King of Samadhi. So we're going to reference that. So if we go to page 12 in that, and at the bottom is excerpts for chapter 15. So the first one in blue is from the 84,000. But then when we turn the page, go to the next page, 13, then there's two big paragraphs there that come from Trangu Rinpoche. That he was much more detailed in his translation. So, Elaine, please, would you read the first one? It says I-50 chapter 15, and on that and the next page 13. So it's in the blue text. Do you have that? Can you recite that?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
I-50 chapter 15. The elucidation of the Buddha's mind. The Buddha explains to Maitreya that Kandabhava has in previous lives seen 10,000 million Buddhas in this very city of Rajagraha and has received this same teaching on Samadhi. He will also teach this Samadhi in the future. He will see many Buddhas and eventually become a Buddha named Vimalabhava. Chandrabhava, on hearing this, levitates with joy and praises the Buddha and rejoices in his good fortune.
Okay, Bernie.
Okay, King of Samadhi, utterly fearless. Once again, the transcendent perfect conqueror said to the youthful moonlight, Youthful one, this being so, a bodhisattva mahasattva who wishes to liberate beings is in unexcelled and sublime joy. Liberate all sentient beings from samsaric existence and wishes to fully establish all beings in unexcelled and perfect joy and the bliss of samadhi should listen to, memorize, comprehend, retain, read, recite, give readings of, daily chant, practice through non-emotional training, do so repeatedly, and as well teach widely to others this king of samadhi that fully reveals the equal nature of all things. Why is this, youthful one, this king of samadhi, that fully reveals the equal nature of all things, causes transcendence from evil states of existence and liberation from all sickness. Thus, the youthful one, when the Bodhisattva Mahasattva hears, retains, and then trains in this king of samadhi that fully reveals the equal nature of all things, youthful one, that Bodhisattva Mahasattva will deliver all sentient beings from the ocean of samsaric existence and fully establish them in the unexcelled and sublime joy and the bliss of samadhi. Then he will quickly attain this samadhi and awaken truly and fully to unexcelled, true, and complete enlightenment.
All right, very good. Thank you. So we kind of are establishing a scene here, a stage, so that's why I'm taking the time to recite all of this. And now let's go back to the root text, the translation of the root text, chapter 15, the elucidation of the Buddha's smile. So 15-1 says, all that time, the Bhagavan spoke these appropriate verses to the Bodhisattva Maitreya. So it's Maitreya who is holding this teaching that is coming from this praise of Chandraprabha that is coming from the Buddha, coming from the Bhagavan. And he says, this youth, Chandraprabha, has praised the Buddha with unequaled joy. He described the unique superior qualities of the Buddhas all the time he is reciting their praise. In this very city of Rajgriha, in the past, he has seen 10,000 million Buddhas. In the presence of all those jinas, he asked about the supreme samadhi of peace. He has always been my son, practicing the supreme bodhisattva conduct. He has always had the confidence of speech, and he has always been practicing celibacy. So, the Bhagavan, the Buddha, is telling Maitreya how worthy Chandraprabha is to continue to be able to teach, to be able to be a great teacher, that he himself will become a Buddha who will be able to teach this samadhi to other beings and so on. And he makes a point of saying, has always been practicing celibacy. So I want to keep this in mind because the next few stanzas go back and refer to that again. So it says, on 15.15, it says, in the very fearful future times, you, Ajita, will be my witness. So Ajita is another name, is an epithet for Maitreya. So you can look that up in the glossary. It's listed in the glossary if you wish to do that. He says, always remaining in a state of celibacy, he will make this samadhi widespread. So he's saying that because Chandraprabha will maintain celibacy, he will be worthy to make this samadhi widespread to many, many beings and so on. It becomes part of his qualification to be able to transmit this. So then the next verse says, 15.6, those who seek entry into this sublime samadhi through that path will gain enlightenment. He will be adopted by many millions of Buddhas, and he will make supreme offerings to those guides. So it's saying that any of the students who receive these teachings from Chandraprabha will be worthy themselves to attain enlightenment and so on. So then 15.7, I prophesy that, remaining in wisdom, Chandraprabha's conduct will be exceptional. In the future times, there will be no obstacle to his celibacy or to his life. Then it says, he will know millions of Buddhas as clearly as 5 Mayabalam plums in the palm of the hand, and he will make offerings in the future to even more, as numerous as sand grains in the Ganges. So these Mayabalam plums in the palm of the hand, they refer to the fruit of the Mayabalam tree, which is what the Sangye Menla, the medicine Buddha, is holding in his right hand. So this becomes the medicine, if you will, for many illnesses, physical illnesses, intellectual illnesses, spiritual illnesses, to help beings to regain their strength and health and so on like that. So he's making that point. So the thing that I'd like to discuss is, why is this celibacy so important? Why do you think that this is being mentioned like this? Brother Bernie, what do you think?
Well, the whole text is really talking up the validity of the monastic state. And so celibacy is sort of an indirect reference to being a monk, because at least in that society, it wouldn't be normal for a person who wasn't a monk not to be married. So it's really talking about the benefits of being in the monastic state, and basically what that offers to you is the opportunity to practice and to study the Dharma without being bothered by having a job or by a family. So it's really being a monk or a nun gives you the opportunity to practice and study the Dharma more than you would have had if you were a lay person, at least at that time. So that's why they're praising it. It's because it really signifies, and of course, it's a sacrifice to be celibate. And he's saying that he's willing to sacrifice that happiness in order to pursue the Dharma. So it's also a sign of his dedication to the Dharma.
Thank you. Very good. Yes. Eileen, what comments do you have about that? Why do you think that this celibacy is so important?
Do we have a definition for celibacy?
Well, I think I don't know if it's listed in the glossary, but I think
I
generally
cannot find.
it's regarded as no sexual activity. Is that correct? You agree with that, Bernie?
That's the definition of celibacy as being sexually, not being sexually active in any way, not that's celibacy. Yes, sure.
Yeah. So you can look it up in any dictionary, but I think that's the general meaning for it. So with that in mind, as a definition of celibacy, why do you think that's stressed so much?
I'm not quite sure if I understood this 15.4.
15.4?
He has always had the confidence of speech and always has been practicing celibacy.
Right.
What does that mean? He has been practicing celibacy.
Right. So he's been, he's been engaged in the activity of the Dharma, which is indicated by, his confidence in speech. What he's been speaking, what he's been doing, has been, the intellectualization of the Dharma and spreading that to other beings and so on. He's been practicing that himself, and then in keeping that, he's remained celibate all this time. He has not engaged in any sexual behavior in any way, according to this. He's always been practicing celibacy. So he's not been, having relations with women or with men or whatever, no sexual activity at all.
I guess because if he's not focusing on the practice, if I guess he tried to remain focused on his practice and not concerned about worldly activities.
So would you say that sexual behavior is so profound? I mean, it's one of the basic things that human beings go through. A mature human being, they have to eat and they have to rest, they have to sleep and so on, but they also have this compulsion to have sex. But the sex, unlike eating and unlike sleeping, has these other characteristics where they become delusion, where they become parts of the five afflictive emotions. You become delusional over sex. You become desirous over sex. You become hatred over sex. You become greedy, and you become prideful over sex, and you become jealous and envious over sex. So sex has sex or not being celibate, drives you to these afflictive emotions that rob our being able to be at peace with our Dharma practice and study and so on. Would you agree with that? What do you think of that?
Yes, I agree, because if you have all the attachment, desire, um, you won't be able to liberate. You know, you might just wandering around, and you won't be able to concentrate on the samadhi, practicing the samadhi. Um, if you want to reach enlightenment, you need to have a focused mind and follow the Buddha's teaching. Abandon all the desire, attachment, aversion. You know, because the ultimate goal is, how do we reach to become enlightened? And these are the steps we have to eliminate.
Do you think that this was unique to the Dharma, unique to the Buddhism, or are there other, cultures, other traditions that practice celibacy?
Um, I think this is a unique situation because I don't know about other practices, other religion, how they practice. Maybe they feel like killing is good. Um, so I believe this is a very unique practice that we have to be content, um, and concentrate on the practice, how to become Buddha. And in order to recognize our Buddha nature, um, we have to abandon the worldly concerns. Otherwise, um, we're gonna be going around, be reborn in samsara again. You know.
Well, I think this is a very profound, part, being stressed like this celibacy part. And for my own self, thinking about it, and in this life, how I've experienced, sexual behavior and so on, and thinking about whatever future there might be in terms of other lifetimes or something like that. To me, it's always been a huge question about how this is dealt with, because in my life, the sexual urge was so strong and powerful, that it led me to the five afflictions in many different ways. And I think having to talk about this, having to think about this, having to contemplate this is a healthy thing here. And I think this is part of the title of this chapter is the elucidation of the Buddha's smile. So what this means is this is why the Buddha is able to smile, because he recognizes these qualities in Chandraprabha. So I'm trying to follow suit here and use this as a guide for our conversation. Bernie, what do you think?
Well, I've said what I think of celibacy before. It's really gives it's really I mean, there's only 24 hours in the day, and you've got to prioritize your activity. And a lot of activity is given over to sexual pursuit in the modern world. So yeah, it's the energy that you're taking away from what could be more meaningful. Of course, it depends upon your individual goals. I'm not saying everybody's got to become a monk. I'm certainly not a monk, or to pursue the Dharma for that matter. I mean, what's necessary for everybody is just to be a good person, to keep the precepts and to be kind to others. But beyond that, if you want to attain liberation, it really does require a lot of effort. It's not something that comes easily. And I think we have the advantage in the modern world with so many labor saving devices that even if you are in a relationship, you do have some free time to practice the Dharma, whereas it would have been harder in the older days. But still, you can't do things like go into long retreats if you're in a relationship. It's really not fair to the other person. So from that standpoint, it's really a kind of Dharma practice is shut off for you if you aren't uh, at least for a while taking a vow of celibacy and separating yourself from partners. Now, what you said about greed and desire and hatred, it can be attached to anything, especially we see these days to food. So just because you give up sex doesn't mean you're without greed or desire or pride or any of that. There's plenty of ways that you can, or even I see people going absolutely crazy over the World Cup on the internet. So I said, well, it's possible to attach to anything, but certainly there's very few stronger attachments uh, to desire than sex. I mean, very few things people kill each other over, but one of them is romantic relationship, and that should really give us a clue how how strong it is and how much we can be misled by it if it goes in the wrong direction. Of course, it can be a very positive and powerful thing too, but there's always the possibility it could go both ways.
I think it's interesting. Years ago, I studied something about the Gnostics, who were during the time of Jesus. So I don't know whether you guys have studied that or not, but the Gnostics lived for about 4, 5, 600 years during the time just before Jesus. When the calendar, this modern Caesarean calendar, started being used and so on, and then up to about 3 or 400 A.D., depending on what story you read about it, that these Gnostics, were very devout, and they had notions, they had understandings of the world being like samsara,
Mhm.
and the name they had for it was the Sophia. They called this the Sophia, was the way it was translated into the Greek anyway. And when they discovered the Nagamati uh, 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 scrolls that were in Egypt after 1947, 1948, they found these scrolls, and they found what were considered to be the Gnostic Gospels that were cut out, that were left out, of the Bible. That they were, there was St. Thomas, and there was St. Judas, and there was uh, St. John, and so these Gospels talked about the Gnostics and talked about, how precious having a life was, and at the same time, how we had to avoid having life. And they went to the extreme of not procreating. It was part of their behavior to not have sex. And of course, that's fraught with all kinds of issues and so on. And there was lots of sodomy, and there was lots of sexual misbehavior as a result of that and so on. And consequently, because they were reviled by the Jews of the time and by the Romans of the time, and they didn't want to have children, that they died out around 400 AD because they weren't procreating, and that the Romans and the Jews were executing them wherever they could because, they were so abhorrent to their tradition and everything. Have you heard anything about that, Bernie? Have you studied
Well,
that at
yeah,
all?
I know a little bit about Gnosticism, and sure, it's really their ideas that the world was like a prison, and we needed to escape from the prison. And the reason that Christ came in the world was to teach us how to escape from that prison. Like they believed that the spirit was encased in matter, which was like a prison. And of course, viewing matter as a prison, they were very down on sex. So yeah, that was the general approach. So yeah, and anyway, so yeah, that's basically. I mean, there's a lot more to say about what the Gnostics taught because they had a whole elaborate spiritual hierarchy of things, but yeah, that's the basic idea behind Gnosticism, and it endured in one form or another into the Middle Ages. The Albigensians in the south of France were also Gnostics as well. So, okay, so that's what I know about Gnosticism.
Eileen, do you have any comment about that? Have you heard of the Gnostics before? Do you have any thoughts about, that there were other societies and so on that were, looking at sex as something that, could result in, great attachment, great anger, great hatred, and so on like that?
I'm not. I'm not. I mean, I don't know anything about Gnostic.
Mm,
Um, but in the modern world nowadays, we don't know. Some people practicing being a monk, but we don't know actually they are practicing or not because um, they engage with the sexual act with other women, um, even though they dress as a monk wearing a robe. And if the story broke out, if there's some conflict between the mistress or the monk who who disguise being a monk, then it will come through the news. That's how we find out. I heard story about that in Asia. So and then it turned out to be like they have so many mistresses, because I think um, the mistress, if they find out that this monk engaged with another woman, they become jealous.
right.
And I think because of the money involved too, um, they receive a lot of donation because they act like they are monk, try to help the being, pray for them, everything, and make people trust them. But behind the scene, we don't know exactly what happened until the story breaks out. That's when we will know the truth. So those are not genuinely practitioner. They're not real. They just acting like they are just to make money and cheat people. That I heard stories about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that's all I know.
So this is a age-old, human condition problem.
Yeah,
Something that humans have been dealing with, since they've been humans, and so on. And animals go through their jealousies and so on like that. We can't say to what degree, but their anger over, expressed over, other animals coming and trying to have sex with their mates and so on like that. So it's not completely unique to human beings, but the intellectual, psychological, behavior is certainly part of that. So anyway, so I'm just trying to bring this out and make think about this. This elucidation of the Buddha's smile. So so let me carry on to the next part here. So 15.8. It says, he will know millions of Buddhas as clearly. So we're talking again about Chandraprabha. And I already read this, but I'll read it again. So he says, he will know millions of Buddhas as clearly as 5-mile bound plums in the palm of the hand. And he will make offerings in the future to even more, as numerous as sand grains in the Ganges. So he's saying that Chandraprabha, will have great devotion to the Dharma, great devotion to the Buddha, etc. Then 15.9, 800 million devas and nagas, and even 100 million billion yaksas in future times will be zealous and make offerings to the Supreme among humans. So zealous, to be enthusiastic, to support this behavior and so on. He will make offerings to the Supreme Human and will practice this unsurpassable wisdom. In a future time, he will become Lord of the world, Ajna, by the name Vimalaprabha. So he's saying he will make offerings to the Supreme Human and will practice this unsurpassable wisdom. So the Supreme Human, is this, I think this is the Buddha nature, the Supreme Human, the complete human being. That's the way I interpret that. Bernie, what do you think about that, the Supreme Human?
Supreme Human, I think, is just another title for the Buddha, really. That's what I think that's all I think it signifies in this context, really.
Do you think that is within ourselves? That that becomes the ultimate achievement, that we're trying to resolve that?
Well, ultimately, we take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Ultimately, we take refuge in ourselves, because ultimately we will become enlightened. But until that day, we take refuge in those who are further along the path, those who have achieved the path of seeing, at least. So yeah, it's not one thing that changes into another. It's like you have respect for your teachers when you're a student, but then one day you were a PhD yourself and you become a teacher, and your respect is for the subject, not for any particular person.
So again, speaking for myself, when I do my morning, setting up my altar and so on like that, I visualize that I'm making offerings to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, and that offering is ultimately within myself. I'm maintaining, I'm creating and maintaining, sustaining my mindfulness that all this is within myself. And I think, when we talk about making offerings to the Buddha and so on like that, that's ultimately what we're doing. That's the purest way of looking at this. To think that it's something outside of ourselves, I think becomes, a delusion. We have to look at it that it is within ourselves, the indestructible heart mind, that diamond that we talk about, that it's within, this is our true nature, that we have this potential within ourselves. So we're creating this mindfulness that the Buddha is within ourselves, that we are Buddha. And then it's up to us then to, with these offerings that we make, these sacrifices, whatever you want to think of it, that we're taking these things and we're using this to, as guides to our purity, to be able to overcome whatever impurities we have, confusions, etc. Eileen, what do you think about that? Does that make sense to you? When you do your offerings, I presume you do offerings. What do you think of that?
Well, when I do my offering, I offer to the Buddhas,
Mm-hmm.
Dharma and Sangha, and my wish to become a Buddha. You know, that's why I will practice, follow the Buddha's path because I want to be like Buddha.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I see that.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't want to become a Buddha, we do not care about practicing at all.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna be end up concerning about worldly, engage in worldly activities
Mm-hmm.
because it takes a lot of sacrifice. We have to sacrifice a lot. This is not an easy path to follow.
Mm-hmm.
We have to give up a lot of things, like you know, just to focus, to bring our mind, um, to bring our mind um, to the cushion.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, that's how I mean, we make an offering to the Buddhas, in other words, and I want to be like a Buddha. That's why I chose my path to practice Dharma.
Do you see that Buddha nature is within yourself or outside of yourself?
Uh, it's within ourselves, you know. It's not outside.
Right,
There's nowhere to be found outside,
right.
you know. That's how I see it.
And do you experience that you're closer to that true nature? You've had glimpses of that true nature, that Buddha nature within yourself from time to time over your during your practices, or even by not even doing practices at a particular time, but you just have a realization of your true nature.
Um, yes and no. Um, if I don't focus my mind on the Dharma practice, then I don't remember. Um, I I am not connecting to the Buddhas. But when I sit on my cushion and really focus on my practice, I could sense it. I could feel it, you know, and I could feel the connection. So, um, which leads me to to focus and to see everything, um, not to concern about outside me
Mm-hmm.
and put my mind, into my focus. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, yes, I do feel the connections. So and I keep telling myself not to abandon it, you know, not abandon my practice because this is the path I need to follow. but it's take a lot of sacrifice and a lot of obstacles. Yeah, it's hard.
So instead of saying that they're sacrifices, which in one point of view they might be, but to make them offerings, you're offering these this time, these objects, whatever your energy to your true nature, to yourself, to your mindfulness. You're
Yeah,
offering this to yourself.
okay. That's true. I
Yeah,
mean, we
because
make offering to ourselves to um, offer our time. Yeah, that's true. We need to have time for that.
I remember some of the teachers, probably Kenshin Rinpoche, maybe it was Drupal Tenin Ningpo, maybe it was Kempo Sultram, back at TMC. And I remember them saying many times, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, they don't need these offerings. They're
Yeah, I
already enlightened.
do. Yeah, they don't need.
They don't
They
need
for
this,
ourselves.
but it's you who needs
Yeah,
these to make the offerings and to receive the offerings in the way of the changes that you make in your life, that you become more mindful, you become more of the true nature that we're seeking to recognize.
and also this is the way to generate merits because we all need merits. You know, without the merits, we're not going to achieve our goal to realize our true Buddha nature. Does that sound right?
Well, the merits are we doing it? Are we doing these offerings as a motivation for merit, or is it the motivation, or that the merit just becomes a benefit that we're not necessarily motivated to make? You know
Oh,
what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah. I think it's a benefits for us to receive the teaching.
But it's
Uh,
like a
to
side.
gain,
It's like a side benefit. We're not. It's not the motivation that we're doing it for the merits. It's just how the merits come along with it.
correct.
Yeah, if we did it selfishly for the merits, I think that would be a negative behavior.
Uh, that would be attachment.
That would be an attachment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bernie, you have any comments on any of this?
Well, been making comments all along. Uh, about the Buddha nature being present in our life. What is the Buddha nature is really the fundamental nature of our own mind, which is covered over by our delusions. And once the delusions are merely our misconceptions about the world, there's nothing more to them than that. But because they're habitual, they're so strong, it's hard to overcome them. And the abilities, the skills, the qualities of the Buddha are latent in every single being. It's like, well, maybe it's a little strange, right? It's like the genetic code when the plant is still a seed, the plant for the flower is already there in the seed, but it takes a while for the plant to bloom. So yeah, we are already a Buddha, but we also have to recognize that our Buddha nature is covered over by our defilements, and it's our job to clear away the defilements. And the analogy that I've used before is like a jewel that falls into the mud. The jewel is covered over with mud, and but it just because it's covered over with mud, it doesn't lose a single cent of its value. It's still every bit as valuable as before it fell into the mud. But no jeweler is going to sell that jewel until he clears every speck of mud off of the jewel. So that's really how it is.
Okay. Yep. Thank you. All right. So going back to the text, um, So we go back to 1511. It says, the young man was overjoyed on hearing this prophecy about himself. Chandraprabha floated up to the height of the 7 palm trees, and remaining in the sky, he made this declaration. O Jina, you who teach the supreme Dharma, who have the power of a Lord of liberating wisdom, you remain in the certainty of supreme wisdom and cannot be defeated by adversaries. You have abandoned attachment and reached liberation. You have no attachment to existence, which is devoid of things. You have no conceptualization whatsoever. You have the wisdom of non-attachment toward the 3 existences. You are unstained by any conceptualization. You are free of all conceptualized views. You have meditated perfectly on the path that has no location. You cannot be defeated or hindered by anyone. You have no residence in the 3 realms. You are free from the floods and the knots. You have cut through the bondage of the creepers of craving. You are free of existence and are devoid of existence. You know the non-existence that is the nature of phenomena. You make understood in words that which cannot be described, just as the lion destroys the jackal. You defeat the unwise Tirtikas. So let's come back to that last part, but just this here, he was just, pointing out and saying to the Buddha how pure he has become in his non-conceptualization and so on, and he's free from any attachment, free from any conceptualized views, has no location or no times, not hindered by anyone, is free from the floods, which would be the afflictive emotions and the notes. That note there at 616, the word floods refers to the 5 afflictive emotions. And the knots refer to those knots that bind us to existence, the things that we enjoy in this life and that we want to have more of in this life, and so on like that. So those would be the knots. You know the non-existence that is the nature of phenomena. In other words, the illusory nature of phenomena. You make understood in words that cannot be described. Just as the lion destroys the jackal, you defeat the unwise Tirtikas. So this philosophy, cuts through the philosophies of the Tirtikas, of the other traditions, the religious traditions, and so on like that. So this philosophy of the Buddha nature is like a lion that destroys the jackals. This cuts through all the misconceptions of the other traditions and so on. So, do you have any comments about that? Does that need more comment, Bernie? What do you think?
Well, let's see. What can I say about this? Well, he's of course praising all the qualities of the Buddha, and we can go through all. Of course, especially calls attention that he's free of conceptualization. Now, of course, that's very different from how our own minds work, so it's a little difficult to approach. Now, my understanding of that is that when the mind works, there's generally said to be the first moment of conceptualization, followed by subsequent moments. The subsequent moments are based on habit and memory. So what I think he's really saying is that the Buddha is liberated from the habit and memory of ordinary beings, that he approaches each moment freshly as if it were new for the first time. And that is one aspect of his enlightenment. So that's what I think, that's how I understand being beyond conceptualization, although it's probably even more profound than that. And it said the path that has no location cannot be defeated or hindered by anyone. It's because the path the understanding of Buddhism is not a conceptual understanding, because it's not a conceptual understanding. It can't be defeated by conceptual arguments. It's something that needs to be experienced, and that experience is self-validating. It needs no proof outside of itself. So that is why it's beyond it has no location, and it cannot be hindered by anyone. It's because it's of its non-conceptual nature, and its nature, its self-validating nature. The three realms, of course, we talked about them before: the realm of desire, the realm of pure form, and the formless realm. So the floods, I think, well, it has footnotes here, and I would check the footnotes. Floods, I
Right.
think, refers to the kleshas, and the knots, I'm not sure what it refers to, but there's a footnote to that as well. The creepers of craving, and that also has a footnote. So we would have to check what those mean, and perhaps we could check in a little bit. I would hesitate to give my opinion over the translator's opinion.
Well, yeah.
So
Well, the knots are those that bind one to existence, thoughts that bind one to existence, and the
floods are the emotional cravings, right? The emotional.
right where the cravings and it doesn't say specifically 618. Um, it just is a clarification of what the root text was, the creepers
Okay.
of craving, but you can imagine, the creepers like vines, in your garden or something like that, or trees, and how those vines, those creepers go, to be able to maintain, to be able to get water and nutrients and so on like that.
And eventually, if they get too big, they choke the life out of the tree that they're climbing on.
Correct. They choke the life out of anything that they come in contact with.
Eventually. Uh,
So I think
non, yeah.
so I think your point of the conceptualization, being able to talk about that, I think was very good, and it reminded me of years ago. Um, One of my teacher, Drupal Tinley Ningpo, for a couple of years, at least a couple of years, maybe 3 years, everything he said had, well, that's conceptual. Everything that when you were talking with him, he would say to you, well, that's conceptual. And he kept pointing out conceptualization all the time. And it gave me cause to think about, well, everything I'm thinking about has this, conceptualization assigned to it and so on, that I'm, imputing this, that I'm designating these conceptualizations, and I got to stop doing that, and it kind of sunk in, and it made a big difference in the way that I think about things, the way I talk about things. In a conversation like this, we're sharing, we're having a discussion, a dharma explanation, and so on like that. We're sharing with each other, so it's a little bit different. But if you go around all the time conceptualizing this, that, or the other thing, you have a conceptual life that robs you of your freedom. So, Eileen, you have any thoughts about conceptualization or about any of this that was just mentioned in these few verses?
Not really.
Do you find yourself being less conversational with people?
Yes, I do. I do.
And do you
I
think that's a
don't care.
result? Is that a result of your practice?
I'm very content. I don't need to talk to anyone. Not because I dislike the person, but it's just nothing to talk about. There's I feel like very strange. Before we at work, we celebrate each other's birthday all the time, and every time we cutting a cake in the conference room, and we enjoy having cake and drinks and everything, and people, all my coworkers talk, chat, and when they talk, I just feel very sleepy, and I want to get out from the room, and all I could hear is just words, just sounds.
Yeah.
I could not make any sense what they're talking about, even though they speak in English, but I only hear sounds. I hear
Honk,
sound. I
honk,
don't know.
honk, honk.
Yeah, I only hear sound, and I could not make any sense what they're talking about, even though they speak in English. And I start feeling very sleepy, and I want to get out from the room all the time. I tell myself, but I don't want to be rude. Um,
So do you find yourself sometimes talking like that, just making sound but not making sense or something?
Not myself, but people who talks. I only hear sound.
If ever I was going to get a tattoo, I would get one tattoo and it'd be on my arm right here. And it would say, "Shut thy mouth." Because half of what we say is meaningless.
That's right. That's how I feel. That that's why I don't really watch TV anymore. I only watch like maybe 20 minutes news. Um, because a lot of time my coworker laugh at me that I have no life. Because sometimes they ask me to go have a drink after work, or have some fun, but I say, I would feel very miserable. I don't want to go, and they keep laughing at me. I have no life, but I'm not interested. um I feel like very stressful if I go in a place that I don't want to be there.
Sure. Yeah, I feel
Yeah,
the same way.
it's I mean, I don't know how to explain it. They
Yeah,
just
no.
me.
Do you experience that, Bernie, something like that yourself?
Uh, Being less social, well, being
Yeah.
an introvert, that's always what's an issue. Uh, yeah, sometimes, I mean, a lot of things that people discuss are just uh, silliness. It doesn't, and of course, I try to keep to right speech, which I interpret as not criticizing others. And a lot of conversation gets around to criticizing other people, something I used to do a lot and I try not to do anymore. So yeah, it's uh, I mean, a lot of times it's just to keep quiet and listen. Other people have something to say, and if you're never going to learn anything, if you're the one who's doing the talking all the time, you got to listen to other people if you want to learn anything. And everybody's got something to contribute, so it's worth listening to what other people have to say. Even
Well, Bernie,
yeah,
like you say, we have to listen, but if actually about work, then yeah, of course I listen and focus what the conversation is about, but if they talk about worldly concern outside, what they experience, they where they go have fun, or what movie they watching, all this, somehow I only hear sound. I don't hear what they're saying. I could not understand what they're saying.
well,
I hear sound only.
I think it's important to show other people you care and show you're concerned with their problems. So I think it's important to interact with people in that way, even though the conversation might be silly, uh, because we're all together in this world, and we need to an important way that people share themselves with you is through their conversation. So it's
Well,
not, conversation is not worthless, I don't think, from that point of view.
I'm not being disrespectful around my the people talking. It's just I could not understood what they were saying. All I hear is sound. That's how I experience. So I just want to share. It doesn't
Okay.
mean that I I disrespect them or anything, but all I could hear is sound. I couldn't
Well,
understand anything.
sometimes people just get on to silly things, and it's no point in taking part in that conversation, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just want to say how I feel, how I experience, what I experienced through. Um, so it's kind of strange. I mean, I don't know. It's
That's
just
okay.
yeah.
Yeah. All right, so these next two stanzas, so 15:17 says, I have obtained today the highest treasure, the treasure of the Dharma taught by the Sugata. I am freed from falling into any of the lower existences. I will never have doubts that you are my guide. He placed upon my head his hand, which was shining, beautiful, the color of gold. He gave me the consecration to be a supreme leader of humans, with the world and its devas as witnesses. So you can take your own hand and put it on your head and visualize that the Buddha is blessing you as you bless yourself with this understanding. For
How about
we are all on the path.
how about visualizing,
Okay.
not physically doing it?
Okay. So this is the smile of the Buddha, and I think as years ago, I went through a period where I was not very happy and I was not smiling, and people would call me out on it. I mean, this was before I knew the Dharma and even meditation. And I was looking for something. I was looking for my smile to come back. And when I found the Dharma, when I found meditation, I found that smile, and it smiles in my heart and it smiles on my face. Sometimes maybe not so much on my face, but always in my heart. And I think that's because of the Dharma, that's because of the practices and so on like that. And I'm very I'm very happy about that and glad about that. And I try and share that I try and share my heart with everybody. So I think that's an important thing. And I think that's a feature of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, to share their body, speech, and mind with all beings. That's what they do. They radiate like the sun. So another way of saying the elucidation of the Buddha's smile, to me, is the cause of the Buddha's smile. What is the cause of the Buddha's smile? So, do you have any thought about that?
Well, in this chapter, the cause of the Buddha's smile is that he's very pleased with Chandra Prabhupada and what he has attained and what he will attain in the future. So that seems the direct meaning of the Buddha's smile here. Buddha wants to bring all beings to enlightenment, and Chandra Prabhupada is just an example of one of the beings who's an exemplary a student of the Dharma and who is very close to enlightenment.
Yes, very good. I agree. Eileen, you have any last words? Anything? Any comment? Okay. So next time we begin chapter 16 and we'll talk about the past. But for now, I think this has been good. And thank you for sharing your thoughts and your experiences and so on. I think it's very, very helpful. So unless somebody else has anything else that you'd like to say, we'll do our dedication prayer. We'll do the dedication prayer by Lord Jigdan Sumgun. It's page 36 in our book. Glorious, holy. Oh, Bernie's getting his book. Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Page 36.
Got it.
Okay. Glorious, holy, venerable, precious kind root and lineage lamas. Divine assembly of Yidams and assemblies of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Yogins, Yoginis, and Dakinis dwelling in the 10 directions, please hear my prayer. May the virtues collected in the 3 times, by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and the innate word of virtue, not result in the 8 worldly concerns, the 4 causes of samsara, or rebirth as a Sravaka or Pratyeka Buddha. May all mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me and mine, obstructors who harm, misleading Mars and the hordes of demons, experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious enlightenment, Buddhahood. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may I benefit all beings through my body, speech, and mind. May the afflictions of desire, hatred, ignorance, arrogance, and jealousy not arise in my mind. May attachment to fame, reputation, wealth, honor, and concern for this life not arise for even a moment. May my mind stream be moistened by loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta, and through that may I become a spiritual master with good qualities equal to the infinity of space. May I gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. May the torment of suffering not arise even at the time of my death. May I not die with negative thoughts. May I not die confused by wrong view. May I not experience an untimely death. May I die joyfully and happily in the great luminosity of the mind as such and the pervading clarity of Dharmata. May I, in any case, gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra at the time of death or in the bardo. Om, Ah, Hung. Om, Ah, Hung. Om, Ah, Hung. May my body, speech, and mind become inseparable with the body, speech, and mind of all the enlightened ones for the benefit of all sentient beings. Brother Bernie and Sister Eileen, thank you both very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
See you next week.
Okie doke. All right. Thank you all very much. Have a good
Thanks.
night. All right. Bye-bye. Thank you, Eileen.
Is camera still on?